All right. Yo, yo, yo. Uh, so I wanted to take a look at Haskell gRPC, which I did a video where I looked at the source code before. That's up on my YouTube. And I wanted to try to play around with it. I spent a bit of time uh, Monday and Tuesday trying to get things to build in different environments. What I settled on is I can't get the tests to work, and but it seems to I seem to be able to build with Nick Shell on Geeks. I also tried building on a couple of versions of Debian, and but I think that this should be okay. So I don't think I have a test loop cycle like I would like to have for playing around, but I do believe I'm able to build this example server that they have in the repo. And let's see if I can run it. See if that's still the path. Okay, so somewhere. Maybe in here. Okay, so I have some server. I don't know how these differ. Dist. Oh, this one's a directory and one's the server, I guess. So I can start the server. I don't get any output, but I believe if I start the client, it will do some sort of networky stuff. Do I get the client? No. Yeah, okay, there. So it does some adding and gives you some equation. So what I wanted to do is take a look at this. I'm familiar with gRPC. I'm not so familiar with Haskell, so I won't necessarily know what I'm doing. And I'm definitely not familiar with Nix or Cabal or really even Geeks. So I'm expecting that things may not work out the way that I want them to. Actually, why don't I go ahead and see if I can just run the shell in Emacs. I seem to be able to. And I'll see if I can run the client. Okay. So that seems good. I don't see really any reason to have multiple shells open. So I guess that's okay for now. I'll just leave the server running in the background until I restart it. So what's going on here? So somewhere we have the arithmetic server. And I'm going to guess in source. No, let's just try find. And find here we go. So it's under examples tutorial. So this is generated code generated by the protocol buffer. Hi, Karen. I'm doing all right. How are you? And good evening to you, Never Know. I'm realizing now that I may not have the code that generates this server. What have I just done? I think I just tried to print my chat screen. Okay, so here's the arithmetic.hs. So I guess the first question is, can I generate this, or does this come with the repo? And then what else is here? We have the arithmetic proto and the client and the server. And I looked at this tutorial, but the tutorial I can't get to work. So it says to call stack build. This doesn't work on the various machines I've tried it. But that's okay. And then so is the client also. So what was I looking at? Arithmetic.hs is auto-generated. But the client and the server I don't think are. So here's the client implementation. And then I can open up the server, I guess, side by side. Let me pull this chat off for just a minute. Oh, sorry, this is the server implementation. I'll pull the client on the right. Okay. So there's not much here once we have the generated code. And we can see what the client is doing. First of all, the server is, I guess, is calling arithmetic server with some handlers. And we've got the running sum handler and the add handler. And somehow that's kicking off some sort of infinite loop. And in the client, we're going to create a client object, I guess. I'm not sure what this ... notation means. But we're going to create a request. And I don't know where meta 1 and meta 2 come from. We're getting a response. Call arithmetic add. Client normal request with 2 ints. I guess these are return values. And we're going to just, when we get the response, we're going to put 2 + 2 equals as a string and show the response, which is a 1 int object. And if we're running sum, we're going to call the running sum call message thing. And we've got this send thing. And I guess we're sending 1, 2, and 3 as a list. Ethers. And we're getting some reply. If we get we get a reply that's populated as a maybe, then we're going to show it. And here, client writer request looks like this thing seems to be a lambda. But the running sum is client streaming. So it looks like, even though it's client streaming, it looks like I'm passing in essentially all of the requests at one time. But I'm not sure that's what's going on. And at any rate, it looks like we're listening on what is this? 50,051. Hey, Lewis. How goes it? Oh, I hope everyone's doing well. All right, so I guess the first thing I want to know is, can I generate this code? And I guess let's look up on GitHub what that looks like. So where are my examples? Arithmetic. Examples tutorial. Arithmetic. So the generated code is checked into source control, version control. I don't know if that means I can't generate it. And I wonder if there's a way to... Is there anything that's not generated? It looks like we have, looks like at least some of the stuff I'm clicking on so far in examples is pre-generated and checked into version control. What about server? Server, we have main. We have hello's proto. Do we import hellos? So Karen's asking, do I prefer functional like syntax or scene syntax? I don't. I guess I don't care so much about the syntax one way or the other. I kind of like functional style a little bit better, and but I haven't really used it much to know. So I can't speak with any real authority. So I'm more at this point. I'm just more exploring to see what is better. But it seems more fun, I guess, for me to program in than like a C or Java style. All right, so how do I generate things? If not using code generation. Actually, while I'm doing this, let me pause my video. Okay, so that's done. All right, so now I have my the AI is open. Okay, so how do I generate? Maybe there's some protalk thing. No, maybe there's some occurrence of the word generate. I think that the so I saw before that they had some other libraries, including like Proto 3 something or other. I think it's the same people. Proto 3 Suite. Maybe this is what generates code. There's a Proto 3 library. Running language interrupt tests. Installing compile proto file. Using compile, maybe this is it. Based on the name and the generated Haskell module on the file name of the input proto relative to the, okay. Let's try this. I'm not sure what the chances are that this is going to work in Geeks, considering how hard I had to work to get the other stuff working. But we're going to try it. Has anyone on the chat used Haskell before? I'd be curious. What do I have to do? I have to run Nick shell and compile build. All right, this might take a while to build. So while that's building, let me try to look at, no, never. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's not that common a language, I think. Right. So I had some open questions in my mind about what some of the syntax was. Let's see if we can look that up while the thing that might be able to compile my proto is working. So where was the it was like arithmetic client. We were assigned to this dot. I think this is some kind of record. Stack build. Hey Sam here. Stack build doesn't work on my, at least the other with the other repo, stack wasn't working. I don't know if that means that I think that means the repo I think it means that they don't actually use that they don't actually use stack, and that's just old documentation. But maybe it'll work on this other repo, this Proto 3 suite thing. Hmm. Well, I don't know if Google will let me search for punctuation like this. All right. Well, I'll ask ChatGPT. So some kind of pattern matching syntax likely returns a monadic value, possibly an IO action, that generates an arithmetic record. The arithmetic dot dot pattern match is then used to extract all the fields of the record and bind them to variables with the same names as the fields. Okay, that's cool. So it's just, I guess, reusing the names is the main thing it's doing. Now, what I don't know is if I can get tags for. I guess tags is no longer my history. Let's look up Haskell tags. Yeah, I don't. So GHC can generate them, but I'm not confident I can load all the modules properly to produce tags. Actively developed fast tags. I'm not sure that any of this is gonna work. So one thing that's going on that's a little bit confusing is that the developers of this software are not bundling the all the dependencies in with the software, and instead they're using essentially they're using the ambient dependencies of the environment, which they then provide with Nix. So, like linking and compiling, etc., won't work except in a Nix shell. But there seems to be some divergence between the shell environment and the Nix environment that they actually used for building the software. And I don't know enough about Nix in terms of how to rectify those two visions of what the dependencies are. And so I'm just not confident that in general that things with GHC will work. But I can try. I mean, maybe I'll try ask tags. I don't know if this is something I can just download. I'm guessing I can't really. Oh, let's just search on geeks. Okay, gRPC-haskell tags. I wonder if there's a version in Nix. Oops, not that. So I don't think it'll work to install the geeks version and run it in the Nix shell. But maybe it'll just work to run it outside of, was it gHC-haskell tags? Am I running? Yeah. So, Louis, do I pronounce the S on your name? Is it Louis or Louis? Am I running Nix and XFCE? I'm running, I am, something's wrong with my keyboard, first of all. I'm running Nix. I'm running, so the OS is Geeks. And yeah, I'm using XFCE, which I've decided I don't actually enjoy. So I would like to switch to something else. But that's what I'm using for now. And then the project I'm trying to build requires Nix as a build system. They use Nix to supply the dependencies. So I'm using Nix inside of Geeks, which has been so far kind of an adventure. But it seems to be working now. Before, when I installed, when I tried to install GHC from outside of the Geeks world, first of all, there's no Geeks package for it. So if I want GHC, I had to install it. I tried using the GHCup installer, which I eventually got to work, but you had to make it aware of the Geeks linker, because Geeks wraps the linker, and then it makes the Geeks shared objects are in the user directory and not where GHC expects them to be. So I eventually got around that using patch elf to actually patch the binary to look for where the linker actually is. But that strategy doesn't really scale, because one of the things that the Haskell build systems like do is to download other versions of GHC, and then those all have to be patched. And I don't see really a way to like plug into that download logic and stack or whatever and patch everything it downloads. So I found some kind of hacky ways to get around that, but the easiest way to get around it was just to switch to Debian for a while, which I did, and that was much easier. But I figured, since Nix was required to supply the necessary dependencies, the main one of which is gRPC, and the getting a specific version of gRPC from even the Debian package manager was a little bit challenging, and building it from scratch was a bit obnoxious. So I ended up just staying with the Nix setup. All right, so I'm downloading a bunch of stuff. What was I doing here? I was building. Okay, so now I have Proto 3 Suite build, I think, or at least I think I just ran Nix shell. Is that what I just did? Let's see if Cabal will build it. Segmentation. All right. So one thing, let's see. I feel like I've come across this before, and I think I just have to unset my library path. See if that works. Hey, look at that. This will compile some more stuff. Okay, so we found out that this is record syntax. Now what I want to do is understand what this is actually doing. So here's the function call itself. You know what? I'm just going to narrow to region. Forgot about this warning. Okay. All right. So we're going to call arithmetic running sum on a client writer request, which takes a 1 in a list. And then we're passing it a function, it looks like. Or we're applying that to a lambda. Let's see if we can find client writer request. I think that I've modified a file, which I think I've just done by accident. Where's my grep? Okay, so we have client writer request here. This is probably a definition. I'm going to take a timeout in seconds, a metadata map, and a stream send request. And I guess it'll return a client request of client streaming request response. Why is it returning a request? Okay, so client request is data. It's got a request and a response. It looks like. And I think we looked up maybe this syntax before, but I think that this is using some sort of fancier. Is this kinds? I think this might be kinds. What am I trying to do? There we go. Okay. All right. So I guess this somehow means that for each of these different kinds, we get like a slightly different client request object. And so for client writer request, I don't know why it's called writer. I don't think that's necessarily a concept in gRPC. But the type seems to be timeout seconds, metadata map, a stream send request turning IO, and a client request of client streaming request response. The final field will be invoked once, and it should repeatedly invoke its final argument of type stream receive response in order to obtain a streaming response incrementally. The final field will be invoked once. I'm assuming the final field is the thing that's before the return value, and not the return value, unless it's this. But if you're here, I guess you have a response, right? Let's look at stream send. Did we import it? What is this? Import low level stream send. We have high level stream send, and I guess, didn't we have a low level? Or maybe we didn't. Or am I just not seeing, did I not grep in the right directory? Yeah, I just wasn't in the right directory. So here's, stream send is defined here, I guess. Or not. Op. Is it under op? The type stream send of A is a thing that is going to have, that has an A, or it's, that is a thing that's going to consume an A and return an IO of either we're getting an error or it's like a, or no return value. And what I don't understand is, it seems like in order to call this streaming method, you may need, we have to have this function, and it seems like we need to know ahead of time all the things we're going to send to the server. Is that right? Client writer request, right? So how do we create this function if we don't know yet all the things that we're going to send to the server? Like, we need to send, we may know one thing to send, or more realistically, we might just set up the connection and not know anything, and then over time compute various things. So I'm not sure how to think about that, because I don't know Haskell. But maybe we can look at other implementations. Will this expand? We get it in arithmetic client and high level client and test client. Let's look at test client. And so in test client, we're just sending, we're kind of doing the same thing. We have a function which is going to compute a bunch of values, but we don't necessarily, but this is all something that can be, I guess, programmed at once. I suppose the other thing you can do, like, you may need to listen to some other you may be a server for some other service. And let's say that just the simple case where you're forwarding requests from another service. Then I guess what you would do is you would just wrap all of your logic that is ever going to emit anything. You would wrap this in this argument. But I thought it said that this thing was like invoked once. Is that what it said? Where's client? Was it client.hs? The final field will be invoked once. And it should repeatedly invoke its final argument of type streamCF response. This is reader request. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. What you want to be able to do is to establish a connection with the server and have the server wait until you send stuff. But it seems like, at least naively, if I'm understanding laziness correctly, this is something that's going to resolve to an IO before it actually reaches out to the server. Is that right? Can I increase the size, the font size? Sure. On Emacs? I don't know how to do that everywhere. I used to have a, you know what I should probably do? Let me try just changing the display size. I increased the resolution when I wasn't streaming. Somewhere in settings. Display. But I can go back to my previous resolution, which is, I think, maybe around here. That should be a little bit better. Is that better? All right, let's see where our, let's see what we have here. Okay, so it seems like Cabal built. What about GHC, was it something tags? Task tags? Task tags? Is there a recursive? Sure, no problem. And hi, Degan one. All right. First of all, I'm going to delete gRPC because I'm not going to build that from source. I could try just running Hask tags on setup.hs, let's say. And what was the thing to generate e tags? E. And do I have like recursive? Yeah, that seems to work. It's actually pretty impressive. Okay, so if I'm here, let me try starting new list of tags tables. Don't do that. I don't know how to tell Emacs to forget whatever I told it about tags, but let's see if this works. Let's try client config. Yeah, okay, seems to work. Awesome. So Sam, you were saying in C++, of equivalent functions, there's typically either some sort of try acquire resource yield if you can't acquire. I'm assuming Haskell comp does this. Compiler. There is like a, I think there's a way to do try acquire in yield. Are you asking about some sort of try to acquire resource in yield if you can't acquire? Are you asking in general? Or are you asking in relation to the specific question I had about the client? I don't know in general. I think I've seen things that are that enable that pattern. But the short answer is I don't know anything about the general case. All right, so now I believe that I can at least try to compile some protos. And Compile proto file. I'm just going to grab one of these. And this is Docker. This actually might be convenient. Compile proto file, proto test, proto outsource gen. Let's just try this on one of the proto files. And I want to be in this. Do I have this thing? Okay. Maybe examples tutorial. Let's copy arithmetic proto to ants proto, just so I don't overwrite anything. Did that work? If ants.haskell. All right. I think we're soon to be in business. I think I cut off the bottom of Emacs here. Yeah. Okay. So it generated some code, which is great. Surprisingly, so Zamir says, surprisingly, makefiles are robust in handling multi-language projects like Proto. Yeah, that's good. I guess I can increase the font on chat. Yeah, so I think the thing I was expecting not to work was I was expecting my my environment to be sufficiently different from the development environment, especially with geeks, that is just that is just not going to have some library or something. Okay, so I can compile a proto file, and I guess that what I want to do is first I want to what is going on? Invoking a disabled set goal column. I don't know what that is, but I don't think I meant to invoke it. Okay, so here's some proto 3 thing here. So add is going to take 2 ints and return 1 int. And running sum is going to take 1 int and return 1 int. That's actually pretty reasonable. Maybe we can add a method. What do I want to do? Let's add, which will take 2 ints. And returns. Let's just try adding a multiply method. That's about the simplest thing we can do, right? It should be it should be hard to get this wrong, which is my first goal. And we can get rid of ant stuff. And then what was it? Proto. Yeah. So let's generate this arithmetic proto. And now I'm hoping. Let's run. Do we still have Nick shell? I think I have to run Nick shell in this directory. Now I'm hoping that it will fail to build because I haven't implemented the multiplication method. But I don't know if it's like segmentation. Well, I think I have to unset library path. Let's see if the well. I don't know if I need to have cleaned or something. Let me think this through for a second. So I have a new, I think my light just kind of exploded. Let me try running Cabal clean. I think that's a thing. I think, and I think I have to build it with examples to make sure that I build a new arithmetic server. So let's try this, and hopefully this will fail. Hey, George. Okay, so this did fail. And now we're getting a new error with polymorphic. Oh no. Proto-buff wrappers polymorphic. I guess maybe the issue is that that the generated file is different from. Wait, what? Google Protobuf wrapper is polymorphic. What is this? Is this a Google Haskell library? Huh. What is it? This should be the Cabal file, right? But where does this come from? Exposed modules. Oh, is this something that they've written, but they're putting in the Google namespace? Is that is that allowed? Exposed modules. See if you can find it. What is it called? Proto 3 Suite? Protocol buffers. Copyright Google. So somehow, what was the year? 2008? I wonder if this is related to. There was a Proto Lens. There is this thing. I think they've got a wrappers.proto. It seems like they do. Okay, so I'm guessing that they copied this from the Google Proto Lens repo. But this version of the generated code is sufficiently different from the version that's checked in that it looks like gRPC-Haskell no longer knows how to build this this file. I put crazy colors on this. So what's changed? Okay, so we've gotten rid of one protobuf import, and we've gotten another. And we've acquired this protobuf wrapped thing. And then there's some differences in the generated code. Yeah, thanks, George. Did you suggest? Oh, and hi, Chang, Gidra. I think you maybe made a comment, or somebody did, but it's definitely on my list. The disassembler. What are we doing here? What we're doing here is I'm looking at trying to build a simple gRPC service in Haskell using this library called gRPC-haskell, and we verified that it will build, and that we can do a simple client call based on the tutorial they have. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just do simple modifications of the service and kind of chasing down problems as they arise. And the current problem I'm having is, I think, probably a version mismatch between the proto compiler and the gRPC package. And so in theory, I should be able to resolve this by looking at the version of Proto 3 suite. I might be able to add a dependency to Cabal. I'm not sure what the right way to go about this is. I certainly don't know anything about Cabal. Where did arithmetic go? Arithmetic server and arithmetic client. And so these are going to depend on Proto 3 suite. And what was the name of the module that I don't have? How many terminals do I have here? I'm still not used to XFCE. Okay. So, was it maybe an Emacs that yeah, could not find module Google protobuf wrappers polymorphic. So I guess I can try adding it to the dependencies. So let me look at the Cabal for Proto 3 suite. It's got this exposed modules thing. Build depends. But if it, so Proto 3 suite Cabal says that it is, oh, but I guess the version I have from GitHub may not be the version that Nix knows about. I don't know how to test. What if I just try finding Proto 3 suite in the Nix directory? Nothing? You have this thing. But what if I try finding Proto 3 suite here? What if I try it with a capital P? There we go. Okay, so we have Proto 3 Suite here and a bunch of them. And here we have 0.6.0. Here we have 0.4.3. That's doc. We're going to get rid of doc. I'm going to guess 0.4.3 is the version that I actually have. So I guess let's try GitHub. Here's Proto 3 Suite. Oh, 0.4.3 doesn't seem to exist as a tag. Is it a release? Releases seem to be just the tags. And 0.6 whatever also doesn't seem to exist. That's what I saw, right? 0.4.3? 0.4.3. Let's try 0.4.2. We also have this compiled proto file. Okay, so let's just try, now I don't know which Nick, I'm not sure which Nick shell I'm in here, but I think that I think this terminal is in the shell for Proto 3 Suite. I guess I can just try, was it tag slash 0.4.2? E? Check out a tag. I can do git tags, right? Tags. Oh, I need it. I just had the, yeah, git checkout tag with no S. Is it like this? Slash? Okay. Let's try, I guess, cabal clean and cabal build. Maybe that will work. Okay. And so while that's doing that, I guess I want to think a little bit about how I would want the client streaming stuff to work. Maybe let's look at see if we can find the client streaming for Java and see what its signature is. Let's try searching for client stream. Internal client stream. Oh, you know what I want is a tutorial. gRPC client streaming tutorial. C++ will work. Streaming RPCs. We've got a unique pointer to client reader of feature called reader stub list, and you're going to pass in a stub, I guess, and call list features. Now let's look at our streaming methods. We've already read creating the server. Some of this may look familiar. Streaming RPCs are implemented in a similar way on both sides. Here's where we call the server-side streaming method list features, which returns a stream of geographical feature S. I want to, yeah, I'm guessing the way to do it is it would take a stream, right? Once we finish writing our client's request to the stream using write, we need to call write done. So this looks like, so client side streaming. Record route is similar, except that we pass the method a context and response object and get back a client writer. Okay, so this is similar to the writer language that was in the Haskell one. We've got some writer, and then we pass the method a context and response object and get back our writer. Where's the context and response object? Okay, so we're getting writer. And here's the context. And stats is maybe the response object. Make a unique pointer to writer. And then for each of these things, we're going to call writer write, which is what the kind of the API I was expecting. So you get some sort of object that lets you put things on the wire, essentially. And then when you're done, you tell it you're done, and you call finish, and you get back a status. Yeah. So that's kind of how I would expect it to work in general. Let's see how it works in Go. And George is asking, do I believe that C++ is more powerful than Python and Java? I'm not sure what you mean by powerful. I think, well, there are trade-offs with every language. I think that I think C++ is better for performance. If you really need performance, which is probably relatively rare these days. But if you need like CPU performance, then C++ gives you more control over something like Python or Java. And so maybe it's more powerful in that sense. On the other hand, Java doesn't let you shoot yourself in the foot as easily. And I think that's also an important trade-off in terms of safety. And people tend to be more productive in Java, probably, I would guess, unless you have like really good C++ libraries. And then Python is like Python's a really good scripting language, but I mean, most stuff you can do in the other languages you can do in Python. So in that sense, I think they're just about all equally powerful. I've moved away personally from dynamically typed languages, and I know Python has more typing features as time goes on, but I found that types help so much, and static analysis is so nice that I don't personally. I think I personally don't write much Python anymore, but that's one of the languages I got started with, and you can do some cool stuff with it. Here's Go. Here's client-side streaming. We've got the record route object. What is this doing? This is the client-side streaming method. Where we get a stream of points from the client and return a single route summary. This time the method doesn't have a request parameter at all. Instead, it gets a route guide, record route server, stream, which the server can use to both read and write messages. It can receive client messages using its receive message. Are we in the server side? This is creating the server. These are creating the client. So, okay, similar to the server-side method, except that we only pass the method of context and get a route guide and record client stream back, which we use to both write and read messages. So we basically get a message queue. Is how I'm going to think about it. We've got all this nano stuff. Somewhere there's a real method call. Here's stream close. Here's record route, or I guess record route. You're just going to give it a context. You're going to get stream in error. And then you're going to call stream send. And then you're going to call stream close and receive. So that seems like the kind of it seems like the kind of thing that you want for Haskell. You want to get some sort of stream object, but a generic enough stream. So is that what we have? Maybe that is what we have, and I'm just misunderstanding. And let's check in on. Oh, failed to build 0.4.2 because of this AST thing. Couldn't match file path. All right. Well, let's try another tag. Was it 5.0? Oh, you know what? Before we try that, maybe the problem is that I need to recreate the Nix shell with the config that's in this tag. Okay, so now with that in mind, let's go back to the client and see if we can. What? Client writer request. We just have this stream send thing. I go to the definition. All right. All right. So the stream send is going to take an A and return IO either gRPC IO and stream send prim. So this is the thing. I don't think I guess you might be able to get an error back for each send, but you shouldn't get a status back, I guess. So stream send prim, maybe primitive, is going to take a call and a completion queue and return a stream send byte string. And then you call write's done. So I guess you do get this. I think I was just misunderstanding maybe how stream send works. We've also got stream receive. But who calls write's done? We do get writes done in client.haskell, both in network/gRPC low level and in high level. So let's take a look in high level. So bidirectional request, I guess we have this writes done object. But not in the, doesn't seem like we have it in here. So what does bidirectional do? It's got a stream send and a stream receive. I think under the hood in real gRPC, everything is a bidirectional stream, if I remember correctly. And maybe it would just be better to have everything have a, so it seems like what Go does, at least, is you can both receive and send, even on a client-only stream. And then you can call writes done. So I'm wondering if that's maybe the right way to do both client and server streaming as well as bidirectional streaming. And then somehow, like if you're doing client streaming, you make it so that stream receive, you can't call unless you're ready to close it. Where is Go? So it calls close and receive. So you close and you receive at the same time. Look at server-side streaming for the client. You get stream receive. I guess you don't need to close. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Maybe if anyone sees this who's actually familiar with this code, you can tell me if I'm misunderstanding this. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that this is requiring me to know at call time when I create the request, everything I'm ever going to stream to it. All right. So George is asking, in cybersecurity, I see that all quality projects like Nmap, Wireshark are made in C, C++. Modern projects are mostly done in Python, Golang, lack many features. That's an interesting point. So George, are you in cybersecurity? I would say that Nmap, I'm pretty sure, is super old. I'm going to guess Nmap is written in straight C. 1997. Okay. Not as old as Unix. When did Java come out? Not the country. 1995. Yeah. So C and C++ are faster, and they're closer to the kernel. And for Wireshark, for example, you, at least the TCP cap stuff should be in C, which it is. But I think you could probably make something as good as Wireshark in a higher level language these days. Wireshark is from 1998. So I think that some of this is just, a lot of the classic tools are just older. Python, I don't see a lot of, so Python is used for scripting a lot, even in, for example, machine learning. So a lot of machine learning libraries, you have essentially a Python scripting interface to something that calls like C code ultimately. And Go is used a lot. So the main nice thing that I think that people like about Go is it's simple to make like an HTTP server. And so Go is used a lot in like Kubernetes, the kind of like the microservice people who kind of like follow the Google ecosystem is where I see a lot of Go stuff. And I forget where I read this. I think it's a public document, but I think one of the original ideas around Go was to kind of be a little bit of a halfway point between Python and C, C++. The idea being that people will be more productive in a Python-like language that you can also write microservices in. And as to missing features, I don't know if the missing features point, George, was a point about the the project's built with those languages missing features or the languages themselves. But certainly for a while, Go lacked generics until maybe a couple of years ago. So that made it hard. And then Samir is saying cybersecurity projects are typically C because of Windows. Linux APIs are usually in C. Yeah, that's true. Language in terms of language is not equal to quality, and programming language power is not equal to exploitability. Yeah, those are all good points. I wasn't even thinking about exploitability, but so when I hear power, I think about basically like how is the language where is it on the Turing hierarchy? And I mean these are all like Turing complete languages. You can do all of the things with them, but maybe to Samir's point, you will have to eventually you're going to need like C bindings to do a lot of stuff. And so and that's what this Haskell gRPC project does. Is it has under the hood, it's really calling the C code for gRPC, and then the Haskell code is making it nicer to interface with Haskell, and so that I can use it in Haskell. You can use it in Haskell projects. But yeah, in general, I agree that the language where language matters a lot, in my opinion, is maintainability. And what you see in a lot of like startups, for example, so this is not anything related to cybersecurity, but what you see in a lot of startups is they will use often whatever like the hot language is. So for a while, a bunch of startups were building their stuff in Python and then in Ruby, and then a lot of stuff is probably built in JavaScript. And what happens is either most startups die, of course, so it ends up not mattering. And then the startups that really grow, they kind of have to figure out what to do with the code that the founders wrote while they were it was like 3 a.m. in Python or whatever. And I think people go different routes. Traditionally, I think a lot of that code used to be rewritten in like a more corporate language like Java or C++. But there are people like I think GitHub still has a bunch of Ruby on Rails stuff. And so, some people try to really scale, like improve the language, or like Facebook. Facebook was like a LAMP project, if I remember correctly. And so they've done a bunch of stuff where they like have improved PHP or things that compiling OCaml to PHP or some ridiculous thing. So you kind of have to, that's where I think things matter a lot. So like if you're going to try to start a startup in like PHP, you just know eventually that either everything's going to be rewritten from scratch in another language, or you're going to invest a lot of resources into making PHP like production ready for distributed systems. And I think like Facebook went the latter route. But that's where I think language really matters more. And to some extent, there's like there's like security or just debuggability. So it's like easier to find developers who know this language or another language. But yeah, so Python with C types is C types. Yeah, I think we ran into that recently. That's like the foreign function stuff. Yeah, foreign function library. Yeah. So exactly. A lot of stuff at Google is built essentially. Well, a lot of the Python stuff at Google is essentially just Python wrappers around C code, and I think that's a reasonable way to go about things. All right, let's see if this Proto 3 suite builds. Okay, so let's figure out if Haskell has streams. Library streams. I Bulat Ziegenschen developed a new I/O library in 2006 that is so sharp it can eventually replace the current I/O facilities based on using handles. Huh. I'm sure there are lots of streaming libraries for Haskell. Streamly. Let's ask ChatGPT. Okay, so Samir is saying each independent Python server within Google also ships with a full Python interpreter. So it becomes 150 megabytes ish. Yeah, that's also true, I assume, of Java, right? Unless they have a way of compiling Java to bytecode. Anything with an interpreter, I think, is going to be slower in general to run. But again, it may not matter. If the thing that, for startups at least, if the thing that matters is that you're faster at writing code than your competition, like 4 people are trying to make a video sharing app or whatever, the one that can iterate quickest has an advantage. So you might just be willing to not care about like the size, the overhead of having an interpreter or whatever. But certainly for something like a company like Google, you do eventually care um, because all those megabytes add up over many servers. So ChatGPT is saying Haskell has several good stream libraries that can be used for efficient and elegant streaming. So Conduit, I've heard of, for efficient stream provides simple, composable, and resource-safe way to process streams. Pipes is an extremely relatively new Haskell library for stream processing. Okay, and streaming. How would I choose? This is one of the things, like when you're new to a language, that's really hard. Like if you've spent some time in an ecosystem, you have a sense of like which libraries are going to fit you or not. But when you aren't familiar, then like a ton of libraries will like sound like they have the same value proposition until you really play with them. And so, especially, and if you're like a new programmer, then you're new at everything. And so that sort of that makes everything much harder. And I think that's something that people lose sight of as they learn more about programming, is they forget how bewildering it is, not really knowing enough to get a foothold and stuff like this. Okay, so this is just giving me general guidelines for streaming. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's see if did that compile? This is a warning. I think it compiled. I need to be in examples. Or is it polymorphic? The polymorphic is gone. Let's see if now will compile. I don't even remember what I was doing. I think I just tried compile build, right? Service options should have 10 arguments. It has been given 9. I feel like this is something I can fix. Let's try it. The service options, server set max message length is the last one. I'm guessing they added one to the end, right? Metadata size, maybe natural. Well, what's in the let's check in the GitHub. Wait, what? Oh, I'm in the wrong I'm in the wrong gRPC-haskell. Is it service options? Okay, server metadata size. Is this just a thing that exists? Oh, max. Server max metadata size. Where is this defined? Do I just add this here? Let's try that. So parse error. Do I just need a comma? Okay, perfect. This is this is the original failure I wanted. So arithmetic multiplication is not initialized, which is expected because I haven't implemented it. So in arithmetic server, I'm just going to take add. Oops. Instead of deleting add, I want to create a new handler. And I'll just change all occurrences of add to multiplication. And I'll change answer to this to just star instead of plus. And then I presumably I need to somehow register this handler, right? I guess here, arithmetic mul equals mul handler. And I think I need a comma, which I guess is conventionally at the beginning of the line. And so if all is right with what I just did, it should maybe fail on client. I guess client doesn't care because client doesn't need to know everything that's implemented. Okay, so now I can create a call to multiplication. Is that all I do? Let's try that. The binding for X shadows the existing binding. Is that bad? Is that a warning? Seems to be an error. What if I change it to a Y? What's the existing binding? It seems like something I'm doing wrong. So it says, oh, Y is down here online. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't do that before. All right, so so the Y is down here on line 41. So I guess it's Z. Seems to work. Let's try to run it. I don't think I need to be in Nix shell to run it. Let's get out of Nix shell just for fun. Oh, I need to do name. I don't know why I keep forgetting this this argument to find. The server runs. I guess let's see if we can call the client here. Hey, all right. Okay. I successfully modified the proto file and added a handler, a unary handler, which is fine by me. I don't think I've ever actually used streaming in real life. We try anything else? See if we can go further. Um, let's try. Let's try calculator. And calculator is going to take what will it take? Calculator will take a calculator message and returns a calculator response. I think this will. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'll get this to work, but if I do, this will be the last thing I think I have time for. Oh, sorry, calculator request. Calculator request. And calculator request is going to take a an operation. And I guess it'll take 2 ints. And it'll take an operation in 2 ints, and then it'll just return um, 1 int. And the 1 int it returns will be called result. And I think that's good enough. It's good enough for now. Let's not get too crazy. Let's see. That should hopefully compile. Okay, good. And so now we'll need to implement some stuff in the server. Let's just grab First of all, let's just verify that that things build with this. Okay, so I need to go back and change the code again. Cool. All right. And it's telling me that I haven't implemented my new method, which is good. So that's the sort of thing I think that Python won't do, I believe, which is if you fail to implement a method, you typically don't know until like you try to call it in Python, if I remember correctly. But Haskell and some other languages will tell you um, if you didn't complete an implementation. So we'll call this the calc. I don't know what the Haskell naming style is, but we'll try the full name calculator handler. Oh, and this is weird. Okay. So normal, I don't know what it means, but it should just take a calculator request and a calculator response, right? And we're gonna take a server. For some reason, we need to, I guess, repeat the type down here again. Let's just try return. Should be able to return an error, right? Return. Wait, can I not return an error? Seems like I have to return a server response. So let's see what the implementation of server normal response is. You've got a response, metadata, status code, status details. See if you can find an example of an error code. We'll return server normal response. I don't know if I can return like an empty object. I'll call it nil for now, but I think I have to actually create, I think I have to manually create an empty object maybe. Um, so I'm going to guess that status not implemented is what the thing is called. I'll return empty metadata, which I think I can do by saying mempty. And then I need to create some sort of calculator response. Which, how do I do that? We can use let. That's right. But not an arrow. Let response be calculator response of -1. That I'm pretty sure this is not going to compile, but let's see what the compiler tells us. Expecting one or more arguments to server request. Expected a type, but server request normal calculator request has kind star to star. Okay. So what line is this on? 36? Sure. 36. Okay, so for these other ones, we get a full. I'm not sure what this is called, but it seems like um, this is kind of weird. I don't know. It seems like I can't just say that I want a calculator request object. I need to put it in parentheses and give it names. And I'm not sure if I can recursively do this. Oh no, that's not what it wants. It wants the Does it want that? Okay. The constructor calculator request should have 2 arguments. So on line 38 now. Okay, so here I think it wants the arguments to it. And here I can say maybe operation and 2 ints x and y, perhaps. It seems to have gotten farther. It's been given 3. Okay. Maybe I just need to not wrap 2 ints. That is not implemented. What is it called? Array is not implemented error. Where is status okay? Yeah, I should just go into definition of status okay. Here we go. Status code unimplemented. Okay. Now, if I had a proper build thing, I could just type G here. It doesn't like unimplemented. It likes it. It doesn't like it because I should not be capitalized. All right. And now, couldn't match maybe 1 int to calculator response with calculator response. Okay, so answer. I just type nothing there. I guess if it's a maybe I can just type nothing. No, expected type IO server response normal calculator response. Actual type server response normal maybe. So I guess I can't. I guess the response is not actually a maybe object. Wait, can I do this? Okay, can I do, okay, so can I do calculator response of nothing? There we go. Defined but not used is 2 ints. Well, that's all right. I don't feel like I need to use it. Let's try running the server again. I'm not, I'm not making any requests with the client yet. That's okay. I guess let's make sure that everything, okay, so now let's add the call to the client. And so I'm going to grab this thing and change it. So mul will be calculator. And it won't take one int, it'll take what? A client calculator request. Oh no, it wants the response to be the response. And the request is going to take client, just calculator request of no, it wants me to actually define these. See that compiles? It does not, unsurprisingly. Calculator response should have one argument, but it's given none. Well, the response should have a one int. How about RSP? Calc response? George is asking, do I have any experience with EXIF tool or XIV2? Project use hex codes as tags and then I can't understand how the hexes are. I have. How they're determined from. I think it's just a standard. I think that's ChatGPT about the EXIF standard. Let's see if we can write a sonnet. O fair EXIF, a standard of her age. In thy metadata doth lie hidden gold. The record of each pixel's pilgrimage. This isn't bad. It doesn't really tell us about the standard. I think that the hex codes are just. I think there's probably just magic numbers that tell you what the different things are. EXIF fields. So here's an example of a EXIF metadata thing. It's got like manufacturer, Y resolution, X resolution, the type of compression. I'm not sure if hex is really being used, but this is all going to be written somehow in binary data into the file. And if I don't know if you're trying to like make your own reader for the metadata, but my guess is they basically have like a C string or some encoding that if you find out where the string actually starts and how large it is, that you'd be able to read the human readable strings too, unless there's some magic number. And I'm not sure how to quickly verify that. But those, with high probability, I would say that one of those two things is happening. I guess it makes sense to use magic numbers because then the image files are all smaller and the magic number thing can just be looked up. It's not hard to put a table into whatever into whatever program. Hi, Akon. You were just watching a music video. The stream gets recommended. Emacs follows you everywhere. That's crazy. I'm curious. I don't know if you want to say, but if you are willing to say, I'm curious what music you're watching. But that's cool. So George, here it does look like there are these tag IDs. So like OX0001 is interop index, which is a string exclamation mark, which might mean it's either nullable or not nullable, depending on the convention. But for example, make and model are strings, and they have these hex tags. So I'm going to pop this in the chat in case this is useful to you. No, I'm not. I keep forgetting that I can't. I've tried to install the appropriate tools on Geeks to let me copy and paste across the VM boundary, but I can't get it to work. So, at some point I'll figure that out. Careless with it's a good song. It's got that great sax part. All right. I think we're close to building this thing. Failed to build. Defined by not used operation. I don't care about defined by not used. And arithmetic calculator is not. I think I maybe just didn't register the handler after I made it. I think handler registration is at the top. Maybe, what is it? Arithmetic. Calculator. I think that's right. Look at that. Closer. Parse error on input. Client on line 33. I just have some. Perhaps this should be in a do block. Maybe. Well, it's in this larger do block. Did I forget to close a parenthesis or something? Yeah, I did. Here? Closer. Incorrect indentation. Probably. There's a 34. I just forgot a parenthesis there too. In fact, I think what have I done? Didn't I have like a 1 and some stuff here? Maybe. See how that goes. A good match calculator requires with 2 ints. There's 2 ints. Here. Expect type client request normal 2 ints 1 int. Actual type client request. $33. Yeah, I need to change this. Does it just calculate? Let me find out what I actually call this thing. Calculator. You're so close. Okay, so wait. Couldn't match type maybe one int with actual type one int in calculator response. So 32, I guess it wants me to have, because it's a message that contains another message. I think maybe I need adjust. And I'm going to add the parentheses just in case. I don't know if the parentheses are strictly speaking required. Couldn't match. Okay, so again, this is a nested field, so maybe I need to adjust here. It's a little bit unwieldy. All these justs and maybes, but maybe that's just how Haskell is. All right, and the second argument of calculate request. Couldn't match maybe two ints with actual type. Two ints on 33. Where's 33? Can I just change one of these? Oh, I changed the wrong one. So for example, it seems like it's fine with the string literal, but the other ones, it has a maybe in front of it. Not in maybe. Perhaps I meant the variable maybe. The data constructor taking maybe two ints and producing a maybe two ints. What if I just do this? Did I parenthesize wrong? No. Okay. It doesn't like that. Oh, you know what? It's because it's not maybe, it's just. Right? This should be just. I think that's what I wanted. All right. This is looking good. Failed. Okay, but why did it fail? Linking failed. Or no? What? Failed to build arithmetic server. Oh, here we go. Define but not used. Is that really an error? Let's see if we are. Try warn. It has to rebuild everything from scratch. Okay, I think that built. When I told it that I don't care about warnings as errors. So let's see if that works. Restart the server. Okay, I get a new error. Use here pattern match failure and do expression. All right, 32,399. So this is a runtime error. So I guess that happens in Haskell. So calc response. But I can't just show the calc response, I guess, because where's my calculator one? Whoops. Okay. So the calculator result is equal to, and then I'll just try putting in just a string. And putting in a number. Rising from show. How about we just get rid of the rest of the string? This wasn't where I started the server, was it? Did I have multiple servers running? All right. We still have this. Let me try removing this server just to make sure that I'm not running an old binary. And try rebuilding. And it seems to say that I have no server. Oops. But is it not building? I guess it's still an error. Okay. So let's just not have these. Okay, so if I change that to nothing, it seems to be happier with that. But still no server. But hmm. So I think it's not actually building. Building the client. Where did I change error? Oh, this W error thing is, I guess, um, per like target. Let's try making everything worn. Oh, okay, so capital W warn is an unrecognized flag. I think lowercase warn should be okay. That's what happened, I guess. Maybe that worked. Okay, so server works now. And what about client? Okay, great. Perfect. Now, you know what? I should go. No, I think I have more time. All right. So the last thing I want to do is see if I can actually implement a calculator. Oh, I dropped off the face of the world. No, I didn't. I'm still here. Okay. I think I disconnected for a couple minutes. All right. So the last thing I want to do is actually implement this calculator thing if I have time. So calculator response, I guess, will be a maybe of something. Was it a maybe one int? See if that builds. So the thing is, it seems like this is a maybe. This is a maybe, right? So I can say maybe of nothing as a response, but I can't, I don't know how to say that the response won't be. That the response might not be populated. So I'm guessing this is just my not understanding Haskell. So calculator response should have one argument. Yeah, I agree. If I do that, this is line 32. Let's narrow this down so I not stop getting confused. Okay. I'm given 2. I think I just need to add parentheses. But how do I just say that it's maybe this at compile time? This should be basically the same as optional, right? Um, how do I just say something? Yeah, I don't know how to tell it that that this could return something that's empty. Let's look at the definition of client normal response. So client normal response as a response And that's the first thing, right? Status code, status detail, client result, normal response. Here's a client normal response, RSP. Okay, so I guess there's some syntax where I can say, I'm going to get a response back, and then I can pattern match somehow on the response. Echo, do echo. Using bind. Am I doing like a, oh, okay. So I'm in do, and I see why, I think. So I'm in do, and I'm using this arrow thing. And I guess there are other ways of doing it where I don't have to specify the type. But I'll specify the type now. And so the next thing I want to do is actually implement this handler. But actually first, um, okay, let's do it. We'll just do let the response equal 5. I'll return status okay with an empty message and no metadata. And this is called response. It's not compiling. No surprises. So 41 calculated response, one int, could match type one int with calculated response. So where's 41? Oh, this should be calculator response of response. Maybe just response. Seems like it might have worked. All right, let's get rid of this. These things are confusing me. So restart the server. Good. Okay, so calculator response is returning 5. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually do the calculations. So I don't remember actually how to do any of this, but maybe case operation. Probably do like a switch. I think case is for type matching types, right? Nested if, okay. I could definitely at least have like a helper function. We'll do help calculate of operation to ints. And then I'll need to implement this function, right? So help. So take a string and how did it do it? Be 2 ints. Like that. And then help calculate, I guess. I don't know if these are actually ints. And then if I don't recognize the string, I'll just return negative -1. Something like that. I could match int with 1 int. Okay, so close. Okay, it wants GHC int.int 32. Does this work? There's a couple of errors. One is this int32 thing. So in line 45, can I just say I'm returning an int here? Will that make that go away? Not in scope. Structure class GHC int.int32. I don't know. Let's try going back to ints. Is that the only error? Let's fix this first error first, I guess. So the server on line 44 is expecting a maybe 2 ints. And where's 44? And I'm giving it, wait, what? Server on line 44. Oh, okay. This should be just 2 ints, I guess. All right, I think that, was that successful? All right, now I've got this int versus int32 things. And I've also got this lazy text versus string. What if I change this string? Let's try to get rid of one of these areas at a time. So I guess I'll tell it this is lazy text. No module. Well, I guess I spelled it wrong. Internal. Okay. Well, what do we have? Do we have data.text? No module is ordered. But data.string? What if I just don't give it a type? What's that? Seems like that might have worked. Okay. I guess type inference did what it's supposed to. Okay, so I get calculated result 2. I don't remember what math problem I gave it. Is that right? Okay, so I gave it 1 and 2 and multiplication. Yeah? Okay, so what if I give it 1 and 2 in addition? Hopefully we will get 3. Yeah, look at that. All right, so that was instructive. I'm going to stop there. What did I learn? Well, I learned how to build the project. I ran into a few issues. I think they all boil down to one, me not knowing what I'm doing, and two, some sort of divergence between my setup and the development setup. But once I got Nix working on Geeks, it was mostly smooth sailing. It seems like a nice library. I was able to compile a proto and send some RPC messages. They do have some tests that verify that the gRPC-Haskell clients and servers, I guess, can communicate with gRPC servers and clients in other languages. So right now, I'm just going to assume that that works. The some of this stuff with juggling around justs and maybes is a little bit opaque to me, but I expect that if I were had more felicity with Haskell, that this is really just me not knowing what I'm doing. And I I guess I still have an open question in my mind about whether client streaming does has the kind of natural API where I can continue to stream requests to the server, or whether I really need to know ahead of time exactly what I'm going to stream. And it may be the case that server streaming has the same open question, but it seems like it looks, at least from the signature of the function, that bidirectional streaming has kind of the expected API. So all in all, I'm very impressed. It seems like you could use this to build out real Haskell services, and I believe that that this is used in production by the folks who made this to actually do Haskell stuff with gRPC. So I think the next step for me is I'd like to work in Haskell. I'd like to work in gRPC as opposed to REST. So I think I'm going to persist with this library for a little bit, and maybe as I get my bearings with Haskell, it'll be clearer to me how to add functionality that makes that can make my life easier. But I'm pretty sure that I don't want to use Nix as the build as a dependency for the build system. So I think the next step is for me to try to see if I can get Bazel to work with Haskell. And I did do a video where I looked at Haskell rules, a different repo from a different group of folks. Whether that can be used to build gRPC services, I have no idea. I don't think that these two projects are related at all. But I think that's a natural sort of thing to do if you're coming from the background I'm coming from as a former Googler. That's how I prefer things to work. So we'll do that at some point. So that's it for now. On Friday, I'm going to do code reading with fan request roulette, and I'll see some of you then. Thanks for watching.